Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Switching Grooves. I'm Russ Fritz.
And I'm Nathan Johns.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride because right now we start.
Switching Grooves. What's up, Russ?
What's up, Nate? How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Getting
Pretty
excited.
good.
Getting
What do you
excited.
get?
Well, we've got our swap meet this weekend. We're taking some stuff to get rid of and putting new stuff out. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yep. I mean,
As long as you
besides
can
the fact
actually.
that I get to prove my point this weekend after watching Homestead. I don't have the least bit of shame in saying that I was right this weekend because definitely a bit of a blunder when it comes to the 5 team this weekend.
You like that, don't you?
I am so ready to cover that part of the story.
So, I don't know, man. It was kind of hectic, but
Definitely a hectic week in sports in general, but that's probably the biggest headline or one of the biggest headlines that we'll probably end up covering today. Well, let's start with dirt. You got anything dirt wise this week to cover?
dirt wise, I have just a little bit. Not a whole lot happening in the dirt scene this week. Just a little bit of Outlaws of Silly Season stuff, and that's about it. So let me get to it here. Pull up my notes. And yes, I use my notes like you don't you don't care for, but
I mean, they were a little bit extreme last week, but also we had
yeah,
races to cover.
I went a little overboard last week, and
We'll get you figured out.
but I cut it down a lot this week. As not too bad. So
Hi, Chuck.
what's
Glad to
going
have you
on, Chuck?
joining in.
Oh, there it is. I was wondering why I couldn't see the comments. I didn't have it pulled up here on my other screen.
Popped up on my phone and then I saw it over off to the side.
So the Outlaws were at Riverside this past weekend. They were supposed to run a 2-day show. Unfortunately, they only ran one.
I did
So
hear there was a lot of controversy over that, but I don't know if that's accurate or not.
yeah, a lot of people were pissed about Saturday. Um, they only had a little bit of rain, not enough for what I would consider something to be rained out, but
I mean,
it
to
was.
be fair, we're so used to getting rain out here that we're able to, overcome it. I don't know about out in Riverside, California.
But they decided to make the call, and a lot of people are upset. Uh, I don't know. They're claiming things. I have it in my notes here, and I'll get down to it. But Carson Macedo actually ran one heck of a race on Friday, and his performance was actually pretty crucial for his championship hopes. But Gravel actually finished second, so he didn't make up much ground anyways. So it kind
At
of
least a
sucked for
little
him.
bit.
Yeah, but with 74 points between the two and only 3 nights to go at the Dirt Track World Championship in Charlotte, this one's pretty much in the bag. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, as we've seen, anything can happen across any genre of racing.
but that was on Friday night. Saturday obviously got rained out. From the pictures and stuff that I've seen, it does look like it was kind of a quick call from the Outlaws to cancel that race, and it may not have been necessary. But unfortunately, I mean, you can't control the weather, and if it's calling for one thing and you get another, and you make a call in the best interest of the teams and the fans, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and move on. I mean, I know that from experience as a racetrack promoter and a series promoter.
Yeah.
So it sucks, but sometimes you can't control what you get. I mean, it is what it is. You got to move on with it. Now, people are complaining and saying and accusing the Outlaws of canceling it because they're scared of the local competition, or they're also saying that the Outlaws are trying to help Gravel win this championship, which absolutely makes no sense at all. It's ridiculous.
I was gonna say if any of them were remotely close, it'd be the gravel one, but I don't even believe that one. I think the PA Posse is
No,
way
it's
scarier than the California Racers.
it's an absolutely ridiculous accusation, in my
It is a
opinion.
very bold claim that isn't very well backed, I guess we'll call it.
I don't see the series. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to think of the way to put it.
Favoriting one driver over another.
Well,
I can't really see that either, especially when it comes to the Outlaws. But then again, I don't really pay attention to the Outlaw sprints very much.
they they don't gain anything from a specific person winning the championship or losing it.
I mean, that's fair also, yeah.
I mean, the people come to see the competition, so I mean, why are you gonna quit coming if your guy doesn't win it and it's fair? As long as it's fair. I mean, I could see if they're playing favorites and screwing your driver over constantly,
Yeah.
then you're gonna get a little irritated and you're just gonna say piss on it. So I get it, but I don't believe that, and I think they made a crappy call, but they went by exactly what the heck the weatherman was saying, and sometimes you just can't control that, man.
I was gonna say, I half the time I don't even listen to the people on TV. I just go off whatever's closer to my area. Half the time I don't even use my phone's weather app. I'll actually go through and look up different weather sources and find the medium ground of what's
that's
actually going to happen. Usually that's what happens.
that's exactly what I tried to do as a promoter myself. So, eh, and it's still hard to make that call. I mean, sometimes you just gotta take that gamble and roll the dice, and sometimes you don't. If it's
Yeah,
a
I mean
if it's a if
there's
it's a
times where it's the promoters have called it early, but they haven't been off by much. If the track was questionable in the photos, then it was probably the right call, because there's been times where, for example, at Lernerville Speedway, they've made the call and everybody complained and moaned that it was entirely too early to call it. And halfway through the night, what would have been racing is now a swimming pool because it
exactly.
floods out the track. So it all depends on if you can get the entire show in.
I
I
mean,
don't know if
I've
it more or less comes down to the entire show or if you can get the majority of it in. Because that means you have to bring all the staff out and, buy all these tickets. If you can't get to at least, the start of the feature, you're going to have to refund all that to do it all over again. And it's going to be a waste of basically free money to, you're going to lose
it's a,
money paying all
it's
these safety officials to do it if they're not going to be able to do anything.
exactly it's a complete waste of time and resources. So
Yes.
I mean, I've
So I can
I've
understand Riverside doing that. At the same time, as a fan, I can understand why that's frustrating. But the accusations I definitely think they're a little over the top, overzealous, I
exactly.
guess we'd call it.
I mean, I've had to cancel races because it rained. It didn't rain the day of the race, but it rained for 2 days ahead of it, and the track was just way too wet to even try to get on and get it ready. So,
I mean, to be
and
fair, that's
or if the pit
when
area is all soaking wet and people are going to get stuck, or people could possibly slip and fall and get hurt. I mean, anything. So
when
you
it
have to
comes to picking favorites and drivers wise, and that being your reasoning, that's almost to the level of, off the wall bizarre statements, as we'll say the Bills saying this is their year for the last 63 years, or Denny Hamlin fans saying this is his year for the last 18, we're going on 19 for next season.
or the
You know,
Browns saying they'll get one next year.
exactly. Every year is your year.
Yeah.
That's the same level of, bizarre statements as those ones. Is every year is your year, and then you lose every year the same way. Being
Man, as a
optimistic and being realistic are two different things. This was not a favoritizing drivers. This was a safety and financial decision of is somebody going to get hurt, or are we going to lose out? And
so
somebody, it financially hurt the series. So
so
I can
move
understand, but kind of not.
moving on to the silly season. Just a small announcement. Have you heard the recent one?
Oh, was it Zeb? Was it Zeb Wise? I think it
Zeb
was.
Wise has been released. This was actually announced, I believe, on Friday, according to what I have here. So he was released by Rudine. I don't want to say fired, but he was released from his duties as the driver of the 26 car. And not even 24 hours later, Rudine announced that Peck will be taking over that ride. So Justin Peck will be in the 26 car for Rudine Racing the rest of this season, I believe. What do I have here? Right now, they put for the Trophy Cup in Tulare, Trey Starks actually took over the Rudine car. And you know, I'm trying to find it. I lost it.
Oh,
But okay.
back to the drawing board.
Okay, there it is. Shortly after Wise's departure was announced, Rudine Racing named Justin Peck as his replacement. And the team actually provided few details, but Peck mentioned in an interview with Sprint Car Unlimited that he will drive at the Short Track Nationals at Texarkana this weekend and at the World Finals in Charlotte. They actually plan to have him in the car next year full time for the High Limit Series. So it'll be Peck back to the High Limit Series in the Rudine 26 car. So that's cool. They'll be trying for another charter, which kind of sucks for Peck though, man. I hate to see that because he actually earned himself him and the team a charter with the 13 car in Book. And now that, obviously stays with the team, and Dazen Persley gets to keep that
Yeah.
for 2025. So that kind of sucks for Peck, but I'm glad to see him get a ride. I mean, the guy is very talented, and he's done a great job in the car this year. I mean, but it sucks for Wise too because I mean, what was it? He secured the contend. I've skipped a line. He actually secured the last championship in the All-Star Circuit of Champions history, obviously in 23 because they got bought by High Limit and shut down. So that actually kind of led everyone to believe they would actually be a really strong competitor in the High Limit Series, and that just didn't happen for some reason or another.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really, it really seems like the team took a step backwards this year. For one reason or another. I don't know what happened there, man, but they finished 11th in the standings and only had 2 top 5s and 17 top 10s out of 51 races. So yeah, they
That doesn't
definitely,
sound very good.
and their contrast to that was 11 wins in 23 with the All Stars on top of the championship. So
Yeah.
the only race he won this year was actually a Super Dirt Cup prelim at Skagit. So
That's a little
I
rough.
don't know. There were actually rumors too after Peck announced that he was leaving the boot car that Rudine was going to run 2 cars next year with each of those guys in the cars.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not the case. So I mean, and those were just rumors. Rudine never actually said that themselves. So, uh, but we don't know if that was a plan that they had or not because they never said it. So, but yeah, after Zeb left, I mean, it wasn't even 24 hours later they announced that Peck was in the car. So, and apparently, from what I hear, Peck had a meeting with that team not long after he stepped away from the boot car, and this was all actually set up at that meeting. According to what Justin said in his interview. So, it didn't take him long to find a ride. It just took a little bit of time to have it announced.
Announce it, yeah.
So he's been on the road, seen on the road for a full season, and considering his achievements in the 13 car, the Redeem team actually now faces the pressure to provide him with a how do you want to call it? We'll just say competitive.
Yeah.
But I was going to say something a little more complex, but we'll just keep it easy. Now it's on the team to provide him a competitive car to be able to consistently run in the front and win these races to earn that charter and finish high enough in the points to get that, along with possibly winning the championship. So there's no doubt in my mind that the talent's there in the driver. Now we just have to make sure that the team is ready.
Equipment's there, yeah.
Because was it really Zeb Wise, the driver? Was it the team? Or was it a little bit of both that led to Zeb being released from the 26 car? Nobody knows that.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I hate to believe that it was actually Zeb Wise all as a driver or Rudine all as a team. I believe it was a little of both.
There's a little bit of mutual, unhappiness.
Yeah, and that's just my opinion. And maybe they weren't vibing right or something like that, and that happens. We see that happen quite often.
Yeah.
You just have to find the right team and be able to connect with each other. So maybe that just hasn't happened. So
that's true, yeah.
But where are we at? The future of Zeb actually remains uncertain, and I believe he himself is unclear about where he's going to go next. So, and he mentioned on Twitter that he'll have more information soon. So with Peck now and in the Rudine car confirmed, there are now 4 high limit cars, including Pursley in the Buick 30, are based in the Jason Myers 14, and Brad Sweet in the Casey Kane 49. So those are 4 teams that are confirmed for 2025 high limit, and I believe there's only one actually confirmed for the Outlaws, and I actually forget who that was. I had it on my head here just a second ago, and I lost it, but no big deal. And that's all I have, Nathan. But before we move on, hang on a second. So before we move on to the black stuff that you actually use to get to a real racetrack, I want to remind all of our viewers, Nathan, to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook.
So. And don't be afraid to reach out and message us. We love to hear from our fans. We love when the fans are able to comment on the videos and chime in on the conversation.
Absolutely. Tell us your thoughts. We love to hear from you. We love interacting with our fans. And please, if you ever want to send fan mail, it's switchinggrooves@gmail.com. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. So, what do you got on that blacktop there, Nathan?
Well, speaking of unknown rides for next year, it has come to everybody's attention that Chandler Smith may be out of a ride next year in the Xfinity Series, which is honestly
I saw that. That
very
is
shocking to me. I mean, from his own words, he may be working for his dad's construction company next year and have to hang it up at the end of the year.
Yeah,
With 3 races left that somebody hasn't picked him up, throws up a bunch of red flags. that makes me wonder if they were really going to pick up Riley Smith when it came to 2311, or if they were actually going to go with Chandler Smith. And with those charters not being available, it's very possible that this may become to a drastic end when it comes to the charter agreements in NASCAR. But we'll come back to that here shortly, because there's a bunch of other charter silly season stuff we'll go over. One of the biggest stories of the weekend, other than the Cup race and Kyle Larson, his fiasco, is the Connor Jones and Matt Mills incident on Saturday. I'm going to give you my personal take on this. Connor Jones should have been parked for the remainder of that race. I don't care how many laps were left. 2 laps is a slap on the wrist. Apparently, this has been going on all season, but Matt Mills apparently threw a block on Connor Jones, and Connor Jones, who's a young race car driver, lost his cool and straight up just drills Matt Mills, sending him into the outside wall hard enough that his truck burst into flames on impact.
Yeah, this one I didn't get to see, so I'm taking your word on this one.
Managed to climb from the car once it came to a stop against the infield. I don't know if it's considered a tire barrier or what it is, right at entrance to pit road. Managed to climb out of the vehicle, but he did not look like he was in good shape. He very gingerly got out of the car, not in a very slow manner either, but he was definitely hurting. They did take him to a local hospital. He stayed Saturday night into Sunday night, and they did post a video on social media of him telling the fans thank you for their thoughts and prayers and the support. Supposedly he will be back in the car at Martinsville, but I would not be surprised if there is some sort of post penalty, post the 2 laps for rough driving from Connor Jones. I'm honestly shocked that they only gave him 2 laps. I feel like they should have parked him, as well as, they parked Carl Edwards for flipping over Brad Keselowski years ago. I am very shocked that they did not park Connor Jones for the remainder of that race, especially with such a young driver he is. That should have been a wake-up call, and if he doesn't, get a post penalty, I feel like he will probably end up, or should at least, lose his ride after that kind of blow up, I call it. Because after wrecking Matt Mills, he had the audacity to cue up the mic and say stuff along the lines of, this has been going on all year, he's sick and tired of it. Like, if that doesn't scream that it's intentional...
Oh, absolutely.
There shouldn't be any other excuse that was blatantly intentional. So, that's my 2 cents on the Truck Series race. Congratulations to Grant Enfinger on going back-to-back. Currently only one more chance, I believe, for the Truck Series playoff drivers to win and you're in, for the other 3 drivers, or the other 7 drivers, I guess, to have a shot at going to Homestead for the Final 4. Because there's 3 spots still available that are not locked in, because Grant Enfinger has won the last 2 races. So 7 drivers will be fighting for a win at Martinsville to lock their way in, and the other 2 will have to race their way in on points. So I don't know the standings off the top of my head for that one. But Austin Hill did end up winning the Xfinity race. That one I'm not so sure I'm surprised on, but at the same time, good for them. I'm still not a very big RCR fan, so we'll just put that out there now. But when it comes to the Cup race, that might be the biggest roller coaster of a day I have ever seen.
Oh boy!
I was very shocked. I guess I shouldn't be shocked at the Kyle Larson recovery on the first attempt. He managed to blow a right rear tire and go into the wall. Car was not really the same. Definitely a little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a hiccup there. But Kyle Larson, being the Kyle Larson and team that he is, managed to drive his way back through the field. And I think it was with 7 to go, was battling with Ryan Blaney for the lead while they were passing the lap car of Austin Dillon. Now, I am not going to harp on Austin Dillon for this one. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I will say that was a level of aggression from Kyle Larson that did not need to happen when it came to Kyle Larson's move. Kyle Larson decided he was going to try to thread the needle on Ryan Blaney and Austin Dillon. And when he got alongside Ryan Blaney, the car ended up getting loose. And it kind of pinched Austin Dillon into the outside wall, but it caused Kyle Larson to spin out. Like he says before, his aggression is his own worst enemy. And in this time, it may have cost him a chance at the championship four. And I'll get to the rest.
He even
But
said, like in his statement afterwards, that Austin didn't do anything wrong. He was kind of hoping that he would just back off the throttle and let him get by, but he didn't do anything wrong, and he didn't blame Austin at all because he couldn't blame Austin. I mean, I
I'm
saw it,
not
and
even going to blame Austin in
he just
general.
went
That
he
was
just
a
went a little bit.
boneheaded move on somebody who
I,
should know better.
as a Larson fan, I'll actually give you that one because he tried to get between the two and he just went down a little too far and he actually touched the right side of Ryan Blaney
Only a
and just
little bit though,
took
and that it
himself a
looked like a flat
but it
tire almost, but it was
but that
just that much. Yeah.
just that little bit in this car will screw you for the rest of the day.
And I hate to bring up trauma for last year, but this is now twice in 2 years that there has been an issue between Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson at Homestead. Now we flash back to last year, coming onto pit road, Kyle Larson just about ran over Ryan Blaney on entrance and destroyed his chance of winning a car. When it comes to Homestead next year, I'm not going to
Hey,
bet on Kyle Larson to win the race because this has been his kryptonite, the tracks that he would actually be good at. And surprisingly enough, that wasn't the biggest headline of the day. Restart with 7 to go. We had the 4 drivers on the outside looking in, starting 1, 2, 3, 4 on the final restart. Hamlin, Reddick, Blaney, and Elliott started in the top 4. Elliott really wasn't a factor at the end of this race. But I
no.
will say Ryan Blaney started on the outside of the front row, I believe it was, and had probably the greatest move of the race to pass Tyler Reddick. Now, Tyler Reddick, for some context,
Yeah.
had
Until Reddick passed him back.
there. Prior to the Kyle Larson spin, Tyler Reddick had literally just pitted, came off pit road, and blended in behind these guys.
Yeah, like 3 laps
Ryan,
later.
not even 3 laps. That he had just come off pit road and had actually blown by Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson prior to the spin. So he had
Yeah,
got
that
him
was the
lap down, but with 4 tires drove back by them in the very next set of corners. So in 1 and 2, he blew right on back by him. And before they even got to this front stretch the second time, he was already back by him. It almost looked like the Hail Melon at Martinsville. He blew by Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson like they were standing still. And I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
believe it would be possible until I saw it, which was pretty impressive.
that's what
But
happens with new tires, man.
with Tyler Reddick not having to pit, he started on the front row. His tires are only two laps older than the rest of the field. You would think that would be some sort of a disadvantage. I don't think I've ever seen chaos ensue that quickly across 3 sets of corners. Coming to the white flag, Denny Hamlin had the lead. Going into turn 1. Coming to the white flag, Hamlin had the lead. Blaney took the lead.
Yeah,
And
right
Reddick
before the
was
line,
gaining
Blaney
fast.
took the lead again.
Reddick was coming fast. And somehow Reddick managed to pass Hamlin. I believe it was on the outside. And knowing how good Reddick is on the outside, Blaney, I guess, went to the middle to try to semi-defend, which I give him credit. He made all the right moves. He just picked the wrong line when it came to hard charging Reddick, and it wasn't like there wasn't any better options. He kind of played it safe to where he could move either way, and he just didn't come back up. I give Ryan Blaney full credit. He had that race mastered, but there wasn't much denying of Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick managed to motor right on by the outside of Ryan Blaney off turn 4 and come to the checkered flag to put 23-11 with their first uh, Final Four, or not Final Four, a Championship 4 appearance in team history. I don't think I've ever seen that much passing in what 3 laps. I don't even think we even hit overtime. But that had everything in the kitchen sink when it came to excitement. I really hope the NASCAR's taking notes because that race needs to come back as the championship race because that race was amazing. Phoenix, I feel like, is a big letdown when it comes to seeing Homestead do what they just did. That was awesome. And I
It was
personally am not a big fan of Homestead, but that
me
track
either.
to me wrong. I think that was the greatest Homestead race we have had since the Bobby Labonte and Bill Elliott
I'm
uh, fiasco with fuel, or was it? I think it was a tire in the last lap of the 2003 race. That
well.
was insane.
I'll give my 2 cents on a couple of things there. Like Kyle Larson, that move, absolutely, Nathan. I actually have to agree with you on that. That was kind of a bonehead move, but Kyle knows that, and he even admitted that he probably shouldn't have pushed it that hard. And
Still,
in my opinion, they were not racing, the last lap yet. And that was a
it,
move
it
that
was
you
entirely
pull
too early
on.
to make that move. I agree with
Exactly.
that
He
1,000%.
if he wouldn't have made that move that early, he probably would have had a heck of a lot better shot to win that race.
If that was coming to the checkered flag, I would have made that move. Not 6 laps
Yeah, I
prior to
mean,
that lap. That
but
was
in my opinion, Kyle should have known better with the experience that he has and the caliber of driver that he is. You see that lap car coming up, getting closer and closer in your windshield. You need to plan ahead and move your line. I would have just tucked in behind Blaney, followed him past
Dylan.
Dylan, and then either let Blaney go back to the top and try to make a move below, or tuck back in behind him and still wait until
I'm
I
gonna
felt the
make
moment
the
was right.
statement that I always make every week, or at least every time I have to talk about Kyle Larson. On dirt, he is almost unstoppable. When it comes to NASCAR, he's way more overrated than people make him out to be. Yes, he can drive, but when it comes to these moments, it proves my point that he has moves, but he does. He's and I made the statement to you earlier, and I know it's a bit of an extreme, but with moves like that, that puts him to the level of talent of Bubba Wallace. He's popular, but he screws up when it counts the most. And it even puts him in the level of Denny Hamlin. At least Kyle Larson has a championship. But, at the same
And
time, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. I'll even attest to that.
and that was actually impressive too. That you mentioned Denny Hamlin. How far back was he to come and actually contend for the win there at the end?
I was a bit surprised when it came to Hamlin. At the same time, Hamlin did get a really good launch off the restart. Like he basically blew by everybody. I was more impressed with Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick started, I think, third and was back to what, fifth, I think, at one point on that restart. He actually lost ground in that final stint before the checkered flag. I thought he was out of it. I really did. And all of a
I think
sudden, you
everybody
see this
did.
monster car start tearing back through the field with what, 5 to go? I mean,
But
he
I mean,
had blew the restart. They took him 3 wide and immediately. He somehow managed to get back to back going again and rocket back by Hamlin, and then past Blaney coming off turn 4. He
now
didn't even lead a lap in that final stint. He
To
just led the final one.
to be honest with you, as I was watching that, I thought he was going to push Hamlin to the win. Is what I thought was going to
I
happen,
honestly thought he was going to, but
and
at
because
the
he
same
has a better
time,
chance. He has a better chance of advancing on points rather than Denny. Denny needs to win.
and I would not be surprised if that's not addressed between the two of them. But because Denny Hamlin owns that team, I don't know if it's that big of an issue.
No, I don't
I
think it's
think
going to
that's
be that
more
big
of
of a
a
deal.
I think that's more of a self pride thing. If Hamlin were to win, I think it's a bigger deal if 23XI makes the final four for the first time ever. And I think when it comes to that, yes, I can't stand
Well,
Denny
they did.
Hamlin.
They did make the final
Well,
four
that's
for the
what I
first
mean.
time
That's
ever.
what I mean is I feel like either way, it would have been a win with Tyler Reddick winning. Technically, Denny Hamlin still makes the final four just as an owner. We obviously haven't seen if he wins Martinsville yet, which is next week. But if he doesn't win Martinsville, he still has a chance of having a title to his name as an owner. Now, granted, I still don't classify that as a championship, to the level of everybody else. But at the same time, if that's the case, Tony Stewart has 4 championships. One as an owner and 3 as a driver. So I can kind of classify it, but that's about the only way Hamlin would win a championship is as an owner because he can't do it as a driver. So,
You saying he ran out of talent?
no, I'm saying that, obviously he chokes it away every year he gets a chance in the Final Four. This is about the only way he's going to be able to get a championship is if somebody driving for him gets it.
No. Well, 2 years ago, I can't. You can't really say that he choked away at that. I mean, he had the spot, but Ross Chastain actually grew a huge set of balls and rode the wall around there
But
and
that
just
point
stole
was
that
over
away
the
from Denny.
course of a season. Had he not focused so much on Ross, we'll say at Milwaukee or Gateway, had he not focused so much on Ross, he might have had a chance to gain more points, and that might not have been possible. This plays over the course of a season. Had he not been, screwing around with Ross and actually racing instead of waiting on him, we might not have that conversation. He may have made that Hell Melon pass and came up one spot short to be able to make it.
The best thing about
Or
that,
we may not even had the Hail Melon.
the
So
best thing about that whole race a couple years ago when Ross did that is that guy set a record at Martinville that'll never be broken.
never. That'll never get broken.
The
I want to see
fastest,
somebody do it at Bristol. I'd rather see that because that'd be way higher. I mean, with
the
fifth year
and
there,
that's
you could easily set a land speed record.
you're a little young to remember, but that's the move that all of us did in those video games in like
Oh
the
no, I've done it.
'90s.
I will
The
attest to doing that in games. I've
the
done that just for the fun of it. Heck, I still do it every once in a while just because I get so frustrated with the car on the game that I'll just run the outside fence as hard as I can do it and just ricochet off the wall. I still do it to this day just because, it's fun to do to screw around. You
the
don't
old
expect somebody to actually do that in real life, but heck, I've done that.
the old
In
NASCAR
NASCAR 2003,
'98.
I used to ricochet off the wall and spin people out
I
just to
think
run the fence on the PC.
I think that was the first year that game was out, or that any NASCAR game was actually out. NASCAR '98, I believe it was on
NASCAR
PlayStation
98
One.
was on the original PlayStation, yes.
Yeah,
And
I've had every
NASCAR 8.
PlayStation they've made, Nathan. I've had a one. I've actually had a one
I
slim. I've
haven't
had
had
a
every PlayStation, but I have played every game that EA Sports ever made. From 98 to 2009, I played every single one of them. I owned at
jeez.
least one copy at one point.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've played every NASCAR game except for maybe 2 of them since they came out in 1998. I haven't played Heat Evolution. I hated that game. It looked dumb to start with.
I
But
should say I've actually owned every one they've ever made, but I've owned every version of
yeah, I've
every
I've owned
PlayStation.
every version.
I haven't had, I had a PS1 Slim and a PS2 Slim on top of the regular versions, but I haven't had a PS3 Slim or the PS4 Slim, and now they have the new PS5 Slim and they're coming out with the PS5 Pro, which I'm not sure
I
what the difference
haven't.
is, but
I've owned every NASCAR game that has ever been produced for like the actual sport. Like I had NASCAR Rumble at one point. I don't really classify that as on my list, but NASCAR Rumble, NASCAR the karting series, which was really dumb. I used to play some of the games they had on Wii.
epic fail, epic fail.
Some of them were pretty decent. Some of
Dirt
them
to
were not. Dirt
Dirt
to
to
Daytona
Daytona was good.
is a great one. I actually still see some of those tracks in the new games, funny enough. And some
You
of
want to
those
know?
cars are actually there.
Speaking of video games, which we don't do very often on the show, but we got a little bit of time, so why the heck not, right?
I do have
You,
one more bizarre story at the very end for NASCAR headlines.
you want to know what my favorite Grand Theft Auto game was?
I have no clue
The
because I've never played them.
the
I've
original
never
Grand
played
Theft
them.
Auto.
I was never really into those games.
I couldn't get into them once they became what they are now, but the original
Yeah,
Grand Theft Auto was actually kind of fun. But
I
anyway,
will.
I
I will
wasn't.
hit my one more.
I didn't know you weren't done yet. I'm sorry.
You're good. I have one more bizarre late breaking story. I just actually got this notification prior to us going on the air.
Oh man, that
But
means I
there
must have
is
missed it.
rumors. Now this has not been confirmed by the team itself, but through reading between the lines, it is almost guaranteed that we have found a ride for Ryan Preece this coming season. There is rumors based on an article, I believe it was by Jordan Bianchi on the NASCAR site, that Ryan Preece will drive for RFK next year because they have Ryan Preece in the it was a 60 car at a tire test at Homestead, which they are now going to try the rain tires at a 1.5 mile racetrack for the first time.
Now I've heard actually that NASCAR has denied, which is not up to NASCAR, but NASCAR has actually denied that preliminary injunction for for Front Row and 2311.
I
But
have not
the
heard that one
the
yet.
courts haven't ruled on it yet. NASCAR said no way, we're just going to run with 32 rather
Yeah.
than 36. But
Well, what it comes out to
the
be
court
is
hasn't ruled on that yet. But I've also heard that they have actually been trying to negotiate with the two teams.
I'm
So
trying to see if I can find
now
exactly who
that's
the
a
reporter
rumor.
was.
I haven't seen anything from NASCAR or 2311 or Front Row about that, but those are rumors that I have heard.
I've seen some oddball updates. That was one I didn't expect. I'm trying to see if I can find the Priest update. But it was
That's an interesting one. I'd like to see him be able to stay in. I mean, even though he hasn't shown.
he hasn't shown great talent, but at the same time, RFK is better talent than you know.
I mean, I'm to be
Haas
honest with you,
currently.
this is what Priest's second year with the team, maybe third, I forget. But
Yeah.
I'm more impressed with Barry coming in a lame duck season for Stuart Haas with his
Well, funny
results than I
enough,
am Ryan Priest.
what is it? Lee Spencer, I believe it was. Lee Spencer made the. It was on Twitter. Let me see if I can find it again. Lee Spencer announced that. I'm going to try to read this quote to you. Wet weather tire test at Homestead, Miami. Hearing 3 drivers will participate in a test on the 1.5 mile track using Goodyear rain tires Monday. The cars expected to participate include the number 6 Ryan Preece, 42 and 48. That's funny.
Interesting.
I don't think Ryan Preece drives the number 6. Could that be a hint to Ryan Preece joining Stuart Haas next year? That's a bit odd, in my opinion.
Whoa, back up there. Ryan
Not
Priest joining
RFK.
joining RFK. Yeah,
That's an odd odd little subtle hint right there.
Yeah, that's a
Is
fun
it
little tidbit
possible that
there.
he's going to join in? Because if that's the case, that may have just blown the doors open on one of the biggest mysteries in silly
Well,
season. Because obviously we
remember
don't have
because
charters for Front Row and 2311, but that was the only remaining driver, if I remember correctly, that we didn't have a link to.
and remember RFK was actually trying to get a third charter,
And that might be their charters,
but they got outbid for the last remaining SHR charter. And even remember, if you remember right, Brad said they just couldn't
couldn't
compete with
match. Yeah.
the price of that.
And I'm wondering if NASCAR is just going to hand it to them since 2311 and Front Row aren't getting it. But it also makes
Uh,
you wonder
that
if
I think would actually be a legal battle in court if the other teams have already purchased them or were in the process of
I don't
transferring
know if
them,
they actually have though. From what I'm
because
getting from
they
these
can't
bloggers, they haven't.
actually legally sell them until the end of the season, and the
Yeah.
season's over with, because if they sell them now, then they won't have a charter themselves for the rest of the year. So
See, they still have to approve the sale, and I think it's where they're getting this at is also with NASCAR, raising the purses if it goes to 32 teams. It's
but
very
I
possible, or 32 charters, not
but
32 teams.
I also believe that Brad and Roush are humble enough to not steal it away or snatch it away in the midst of a legal battle. I think they're humble enough to let that actually happen and work itself out first. And then
Yeah.
if there's still one that they can buy, then buy it. I don't think they would be that petty to snatch one up out from underneath them and pull the rug out from underneath one of those two teams.
I mean, it's very possible that that's the case. We won't know until it happens, but they definitely a little bit of subtle hint given there from Spencer Lee. I was a bit surprised by that one because I hadn't heard that update. So that was definitely kind of cool. I'll give credit to Eric Estep for finding that one because that was definitely an odd bit of information that I don't think anybody really saw coming. It was definitely a good find. So I'll give him credit for that one. That was a
That
very
or
good. We'll call it a very good big nugget, as Larry
so
McMurray.
it's a good tidbit to chew on. So,
Yeah, so that's a little food for thought.
but maybe they also just hired him to run the tire test for him too. I mean, we don't
That's
know,
also true because it is a Ford driver, but it still makes you wonder
but
why Brad wasn't in the
it,
car.
exactly, it's a little odd unless Brad actually has prior commitments for
Because I
that
believe that
particular
was supposed
day.
to happen tomorrow if it wasn't today. I'm going to go look at the date.
Yeah, I mean that'd be the only thing that would really stop Brad from participating in a test like that, would be prior commitments that he can't get out of.
It was supposed to happen today. So, unless Brad had some sort of prior commitments back at the shop, it does make you wonder why
Because
Ryan Priest is in the sixth car. Yeah.
he is an owner in that team. So
So that does make a little bit of sense also. For all we know, it could be nothing. But at the same time, you never know with that one. They may have hired him for one race and that be it. It is a Ford car to a Ford car. So it's not like there's a manufacturer change, but it's definitely a one to think about.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of getting excited actually to see the High Limit International Series.
I've heard that one should be kind
Going
of
to
fun.
start here soon in Australia. At I believe it's Plex 25, something like that. I forget. But
I know
and I'm
you're
hoping.
excited about the high limit race. I'm excited about Bowman Gray. I'm super excited
Well,
about that
the
one.
high limit's coming before Bowman Gray, so yes, I'm excited to go to Bowman Gray, but I don't know if I want to freeze my tail off though. Of course, we are going to
I
be in
mean,
North Carolina, so
yeah, North Carolina isn't too bad for it. For
so
anybody who
yeah,
doesn't know what we're
for
referring to,
anybody
we
that
did
doesn't
end
know,
up. We will be trying to do a live show from North Carolina, as
yes,
Russ and I and our prospective others have secured 4 tickets to the Bowman Gray season opener for the Clash, which I expect pure pandemonium. I'm sure we'll have
I
all
was
kinds of crazy stuff for the first episode of the NASCAR season.
and I was actually
I'm getting excited about it.
I was trying to get Nathan to like buy his tickets on the entire other side of the arena, but he got all four of
I
them
mean,
together.
we're on the back stretch. We're on the back stretch, which was kind of
I
cool.
I don't think there's a bad seat in that place, to be honest with you.
From what I've heard, usually that place sells out on a weekly basis. So regardless, there's a great seat in the house. I mean, for all we know, Denny Hamlin won't win the championship this year, and we could start off Bowman Gray like I started at Daytona, telling them exactly like it is and giving them nothing but the truth and only the truth. Is that
I'll
he
tell
sucks.
you, I still got to give credit to Hamlin. We didn't mention him enough. Like that guy came from what over 20 seconds behind
I
to.
still can't even fathom that. Like, I feel like we're
I mean, they just had
broken
bad
record
pit
anymore.
stops.
Is well, we've had what Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson had a bad first race of round one, and they managed to make it on to the next round. Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin both had a bad race to start round two. Both somehow made it on. But also, given the fact that Tyler Reddick has won the last three stage ones and hadn't finished the last two races, is pretty bad. And he definitely made a huge turnaround. Like, luck has not been on his side. He won stage one at the Roval and was airborne in stage two. Won stage one at Vegas and was on his roof in stage two. At least this time he, won stage one and actually finished the race in stage two and stage three. So big props to Tyler Reddick, but I will say that the turnaround from Hamlin has put him in a better spot than Larson. And that's sad for me to say, but it's true.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we definitely need to wrap the show up before I get off on too much of a tangent because
Yeah,
I'm so I'm so amped that I can finally
But-
prove my point with Hamlin or with Larson. Like
but
I've been saying this all along, and I've caught this crap, and it's finally paying off.
before we go though, Nathan, I do actually would want to ask our viewers. We've been tossing around a few ideas about the show. What do you think? Do we split the show up into two separate shows, one covering dirt and one covering NASCAR, and shorten them so we're not taking up too much time at once? How do you feel about that? Or would you like to see just a little bit each day, 10 to 15 minutes worth of news, like we see a lot of other guys do? Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you and try to make things better for you. So, what do you think, Nathan? What would you prefer to do?
Honestly, I love our weekly shows, but if we were to do an episode of dirt and then an episode of NASCAR and then we do an episode together, I don't really mind. I can do a little bit of everything. I actually like the shows with us together, but also it also comes down to the fans, what the fans would like. If they like hearing you talk about your dirt stuff, they can listen to those episodes. If they like my NASCAR stuff, they can talk about that, or we can do it all together. So we would love to hear the fans' voices.
And that was another thought too. I can get you up to speed on running this program, and you could do an asphalt episode alone. Short 10 to 15-minute episode. I could do the same with dirt. We could each do that like once a week, and then do one together, talking about anything and everything going on in racing.
We could be our little Q&A, ask Junior, ask Russ and Nathan.
But we definitely need to get a little bit more content going. So, this is why we ask our fans what they want to see from us.
And we have the potential of doing a few interviews for a series that we've been watching. There is a New York Champ Kart series that I'll be trying to participate in this year. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of more content that way. So
yes, and I know of Kevin Robinson. He's talking about getting us some content from the Champ Kart series itself.
We definitely need to get his plug of Robinson Kart Treatments. We definitely need to get that plug in there. Cash in on that one.
Well, I haven't received payment for the first one.
I know. Where you at, Kevin? We're gonna have to
So,
do like we did with Hoosiers, or not Hoosiers, Hooters. They'll have to do what they did with Hooters. Anybody who
yeah,
understood that was a Chase Elliott fan.
yeah, had to write them off after a while,
Oh no!
huh? So, anyway,
Seems like we're
Nathan,
about ready to wrap it up.
I think that's going to do it for tonight, man. So, what do you think?
I say we've covered about everything there is to, and then some. I'm just excited to see how the end of the season works out when it comes to NASCAR. I can only imagine how Martinsville is going to be if Homestead was this crazy. So I can't wait to see what happens.
I can't wait for the Sprint Car World Finals in a couple weeks in Charlotte.
I'm
That's going to
excited
be
to hear about
interesting.
that too.
Don't bother me that weekend, buddy.
I
unless
promise.
you're gonna
What
come here and
weekend is that?
watch it with me in
What
2 or 3
is that?
weeks from now.
So it's not next weekend; it's the weekend after. Or
And
one of our fans will have to tell us.
I'll look it back up. I forget. I thought it was 2 weeks from now. I could be wrong. Could be 3, but I actually have a race to run
Oh.
over here for the go karts. The Colossal. It's a local go kart track,
All right.
and we'll be running that on November 16th. So
Cool.
I'm the race director and flagman for that. So that'll be a long day, but it's a lot of fun. If you can stop on out, Tribute Speedway in Fremont. We're gonna do a live show. Oh, probably here within a week, and I'm actually gonna do a live pre-race drivers meeting a night or two before the race itself. So
All right.
you had to make some plans to come over for a visit.
We'll have to make sure we make it out that way eventually.
All right. So
Well, I know it's about time to wrap it up. So, with Switching Grooves, I'm Nathan Johns.
I'm Russ Fritz saying race hard,
Stay safe.
and we'll see you there. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.